Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I've got founder and CEO of Sarilla here with me. I've got Sara Stender Delaney here, all the way in Asheville, North Carolina. I am so excited to have her here because I love her brand. I love what she's created. I love the community and activism part of it as well. But Sara, just thank you truly for being here with me today, especially after we were just talking about we got back from holiday. Why we decided to do it a Monday after holiday, we don't know, but we are here. But Sara, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks. Good to be here. Yeah, I hope you had a good holiday.
Yeah, it was good. We were just talking about it. We're a little funky today, getting back into things, but we're here and we're grooving. I would love to, as you were just about to crack your Sarilla open, um,
Yeah.
I would love to to just have you set the stage first and foremost before we dig in to everything Sarilla, where the creation story behind it, and your story getting and creating this brand.
Okay, so this is our original flavor. It was actually, I'm going to crack it open now because I am a little laggy from the weekend. Even though I did some work, it's just, I didn't even eat that much. I just feel like, yeah, very lethargic.
Yes.
So this is inspired by an ingredient called silver needle tea, which I discovered when I was living in Rwanda.
Okay.
So it says on the label it's made with actually silver tips tea, organic black tea. We have organic lemon juice and just a touch of sugar,
Mhm.
and
That's one of my favorites.
it's so good. I actually don't drink this flavor all that much. I drink the ginger almost every day,
Okay.
and then
I
at night.
wasn't going to make you pick a child, but you just
No,
picked
I
a
know.
child.
Yeah. Luckily, they're all grown, they still have a ways to grow, but I
Yes.
don't see them as my babies anymore. I know that's usually how it starts,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we're trying, we've had our separation. They're on their own, flying out of the nest. Their success is not dependent on, me being always nearby because that's not scalable.
So true. So true.
Yeah, but the silver tea is like it's my favorite ingredient to work with. When I was living in Rwanda in 2009,
Okay.
and I would sip on the loose leaf tea there every day. And I also love coffee. Rwandan coffee is some of the best I've ever had. I think East African coffee in general is it's my favorite. I like pea berry coffee. I like it comes generally from Tanzania. I like Ethiopian coffee. Of course, Kenya is known for great coffee. But the thing is, when I have too much, I start to like break out in a sweat. I get like real edgy. I don't like the way my voice sounds. Sometimes I even have this out of body experience. Have you ever had
Okay.
that where you have like one cup too many
Yes.
and you're like looking above? I'm really sensitive to it, but I love it. So I definitely, it helps me wake up in the morning. But as soon as I can, I switch to tea. And I love tea for the health benefits, the flavor, the energizing effect without that kind of spike and crash. Um, I also like I've learned a lot about it and how it grows and the regenerative qualities of the farming techniques. Um, it's a year-round crop that can be harvested on a regular basis, which provides regular income for the tea pluckers. Whereas, like if we were to compare it to coffee, typically coffee is not considered really a regenerative. It's a tree, so it does grow amongst other crops, but it's usually only harvested once or twice a year. So the income there is pretty limiting. So there were a number of reasons I got into tea as the ingredient, but beyond the actual product, it was really the purpose and the mission that I had. Like once I returned to the States from Rwanda, um, living there and meeting so many amazing people, it just changed my life. I was looking for a way to give back for what I had benefited from while I was living there. And so over time, this product evolved as a catalyst for change and really to help people here in the States feel like they had something special to drink too when they were socializing. Maybe they weren't drinking alcohol for one reason or another, or just looking for a lower sugar option that still tasted great, was refreshing, sort of like a soda, sort of like kombucha, maybe looks like a beer in a glass but doesn't taste like a beer. So those were the concepts I was working with. And then, just on a mission to purchase as much as I can from the people I know in Rwanda because I know what a difference that makes to them.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you too, I've my own personal familial experience from the last few years. It's been so interesting to see so many different brands that are non-alcoholic start to really pop up and serve options for people who are sober, recovering, or just not into alcohol as it is. It's very interesting to see how much that area has grown in the beverage industry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been in the middle of it like for so long. This my product evolution happened probably before the scene really blew up. Like I was just chipping away over here quietly, like making tea in kegs, puttering around Asheville, like delivering it to breweries. Some people thought I was like, really? Is there going to be a demand for that? Like you're going to breweries with tea? And people loved it, but it was before I'd say, that was like 2018. And then 2019, I was getting going. I did my first trade show, started testing it out in cans, got into some grocery stores. 2020, um, that's when, the taps shut down, the breweries kind of shut down, restaurants, mainly delivery. So we just went all in on cans.
Okay.
Um, and I think the pandemic was a time where like a lot of people's drinking actually escalated, like a lot. Yeah. Like alcohol consumption went either really high or I know a lot of people who got sober during that time. It was kind of like an all or nothing. I think I'm grateful I don't drink at all because I think that time could have been a real trigger for me if I wasn't sober. So I'm glad it just wasn't an option on the table. I mean, these days with like alcohol delivery services, that could have gotten really ugly for me.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. We're sitting in the same boat here. I am not a drinker at all, and
okay.
I come from, family who does. Like they sit down at the end of the day and it's a glass of wine or something like that. But I was the same way. DoorDash blew up and people were getting
I
food
know.
delivered and things like that. Like you were talking about alcohol delivery. It's another bullet in the gun that just, I mean, could have been really bad in a really bad time as it
It's
was.
too easy, it's too easy and there's like no accountability. So, but like I said, I know some people who just actually it went the other way, they just kind of had the time and space to set like some new health goals, maybe to start like learning how to cook or experimenting with different foods and actually like really got on track with a healthy lifestyle, and then other people like their drinking got out of control and they recognize it and now they're getting it together and like pulling back, getting back on track with the eating and drinking and exercising right kind of thing.
I want
So
to I want to hop to branding of Sarilla because what stands out is the creativity. Like I am captured by the branding and packaging of Sarilla. I first just want to how that came to be. I mean, you guys a BevNet Packaging Award in 2022, which is a standout award as well. And what was the creation process there?
thank you so much. It definitely means a lot to me. And, I heard someone say maybe on LinkedIn, if you're not embarrassed about your first package design, then there's probably a problem, something along those lines. And when I look at, I should have my first can in front of me to show you, but it is not that it was a bad design. It's just so different from where we are now, and it was much more. Well, it just I hadn't done a lot of like consumer research on our target audience, and I'd say it was more like geared towards maybe a beer drinker. So there was some confusion there in terms of like who are we trying to speak to, and I was just a bit naive about what it takes to really succeed in grocery, where you're not there to tell a story. You're not there to give out samples unless you're demoing. So to have this can, at the time we only had two SKUs, two flavors. So you've got 4.5 inches of space there on the shelf. And if you're not selling into the cooler, then you've got that issue to contend with. You're a warm item, which, should be consumed cold on the shelf, maybe not even at eye level. So that's what you have to work with. So I learned, in that first year and a half working in grocery, how hard that was. And that packaging is possibly the most important asset we have to capture a consumer's attention that first time. So, the 2021, I guess it was like early 2021, I'm super grateful. I connected with some amazing designers online.
Yeah.
First, I would say I was connected with a brand advisor mentor, and his name's Bob Russell. He's an incredible guy, and he's been working with me ever since as a friend, mentor, advisor. And together, we started looking for a new designer. I would say he had he had the courage to have what he calls the ugly baby conversation, which is like you have an amazing product, amazing mission, you're doing so many things right, but this packaging needs to change. And we were already on our second iteration. So I knew it did. It's just such a painful, you've got to like rip the band-aid off and just like, okay, we've got to do it. We've got to spend the money. It's time consuming. It put our retail sales on hold. I want everyone to know like rebranding is not a glamorous thing. It is painful. It's emotional, and it could set you back like 6 months on sales. So
Yeah.
our projections for that year were not correct because I didn't realize it would take half a year, and in that time, you don't want to sell your product into new stores knowing it's going to change. So we had that, but I would say overall, like it was an amazing process. I'm glad we did it sooner rather than later. The people we hired were just did an exceptional job. I mean, you can tell what you said, like won best packaging design the end of I guess 2022. Um, we have had the new products in stores for about a year now, and the feedback's been really, really positive. But the designers just got it. They got our brand voice. They got our like the emotions that we wanted to convey on the packaging, which is more important than the words. It's more important than free from this, full of this, like all those descriptions are important, but that's not what draws someone to a package initially, So I had to go through a lot of training just on like letting go of some of the things that I thought needed to be on the front of the pack. And I still struggle with that because I'm like, you hear consumer voices, you hear your customers going, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Like, why don't you have the organic symbol on the front? Like, that's so important. And I'm like, I know we did. We had everything on the front, and it got, moved around for this beautiful design. Like, we don't want it to be cluttered on the front. You can pick it up and turn it around. You can go to our website, go to our social, and learn those other things. But that's still probably one of the hardest things
Okay.
is I want people to know everything about us all at once.
I'm personally doing a rebranding too, actually right now. So when this new season will air, there will be new branding. But it was finally it was the do I want to continue the podcast? If not, we're gonna keep it as it is right now. But if we want to make this serious, I'm like, I need to get a designer in here. I need to seriously go through this process. And like you said, it has been a 6 month process of here's what I like that's out there in the market. She's coming back and giving me the boards and uh, different shapes, structures, things like that. And then she's turned around and having to create everything. And so I'm like a kid in a candy store right now, waiting to get these finals back because I'm so
Yeah.
excited to see
Yeah.
what this new season that you will be on will look like.
It's
Because it
so
is.
exciting. It's so fun.
Yeah. I'm
It's
really looking forward to it, and it's been a process. It's been a very long process.
Well, I remember my designers came. So, first of all, I had to back off on like pressuring with a timeline because that just you can't force the time it takes.
Yeah.
And I'm not the most patient person. But once I kind of backed off and just let it happen in the natural course, they presented me with something like way beyond my expectations. They created a whole presentation on three options. And I'm telling you, I could have used any of those options and had an incredible looking brand. Like it was beyond, and so, but I knew, like in my heart, I knew which one to pick, but I couldn't have probably gone wrong if I picked the others.
Okay. Okay.
And then along with the design for the packaging, they presented me with about a 50-page brand book, which I didn't expect. I mean, it included the brand voice, like fonts, colors, all those things you need to move forward, where you've got all the assets you need to build out everything, besides just the product packaging.
I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people who own agencies and do branding and things like that, and they every time that I talk to them, they're like, people misjudge how many elements go into a brand and even a rebrand as you're elevating the business and said brand. And I'm always astounded. I went through the process myself in a corporate setting, and I was astounded by the checklist of
Hmm.
what was having to be redone or what was being created net new. It's incredible to me.
And the sooner the better to do it.
Yes.
Because
I'm like you too.
we're
I'm
so
like, so this.
small. We're so small. Can you
Yeah.
imagine if you're a big corporation, like going around the world to replace your coolers or whatever? I mean, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm excited to see your new branding. That'll
Thank
be
you.
so
I
fun.
appreciate it, but I'm like you. I'm like, so 2 weeks, this will be done. And she's
I
like,
know, me too.
no. I'm like, shucks. So
I know. They
I'm like,
trained me so well. So now I'm like, if I need some new asset, like we're making table tents right now.
cool.
I'm just like, I used to be like, okay, is that going to be, end of the week kind of? I'm just like, you tell me, how much time do you need?
Yes, absolutely. I'm the
I
same.
underestimate, I really do. And I think part of it is because I move really fast, and not that that's a good thing, like, because I can miss things along the way, but I'm just like, do, 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 by like 10 a.m., I've already done like, hours and hours of work and I'm like ready. So I think that's just me. I need to adjust like my expectations, but also recognizing like my way isn't the best, which is moving fast. It doesn't mean you're doing, the best job.
Absolutely. Actually I have my pencil sitting right here, and I always have my pencil with me because most of the time I will, like, if I don't write it down as soon as it comes to my head, I'm like, it's gone because I'm just moving so quickly throughout my day that I will forget anything and everything if I don't write it
Mhm.
down. as soon as it comes to
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I do that. I use my phone calendar for all that because I'm like, if it doesn't go to my calendar, it doesn't get done. So it's like, I mean, I could have the list, but if the list items don't make it to my calendar, then it's just going to stay on the list and it's going to make me, I'm just going to feel bad at the end of the day when I look at the list. So
Absolutely.
my calendar is like really ugly. It's really ugly because I've put things on there. It's not necessarily a meeting. It's just like, and I'll put like a big project. It'll be like 15 minutes on my calendar, which is totally unrealistic. It might be like a 2 hour project, and I've got like a little 15-minute thing on today. So that'll bump to tomorrow and probably to Friday, but at least it's there. And then Saturday morning becomes like it's like a deck of cards.
Yes. Everything is crumbling down. I want to hop to, we've talked about branding, but I want to hop to these incredible, the products you have and the flavors of Sarilla. So, first off, you do have loose tea, and that is in partnership with with the sister company Tima Tea. I do want to hit on how that partnership came to be and how it came to be under Sarilla as well, and what that partnership has been like.
Yeah, so when I actually launched the parent company, is called Three Mountains. I launched Three Mountains as a social enterprise, and that was before I had any product ideas. I just knew that we wanted to be partnering with entrepreneurs and growers in Rwanda to shine a light on products that they wanted to sell. And so I set up Three Mountains more as a company that could import products and resell them. And then I joined a program in Asheville called Venture, well, it was called Elevate, like a Venture Asheville program, and part of the chamber. And through that program, I was connected with some mentors. And my first meeting with them, I just dumped a bunch of things on the table. It was like baskets and bags and jewelry and coffee and tea, and I might have had, I don't think I had a canned product yet. And I was like, yeah. So I had this idea to do a store and all these products, all from Rwanda. And they kind of looked at me and were like, I mean, they thought this is beautiful, like so ambitious, like, but let's focus, you know. And over the next year, it was like, focus down, start with one thing, start small to get big kind of idea. And I still had some other jobs. Like, this was more of a side gig thing. I was importing loose leaf tea, selling it to some local coffee shops,
Okay.
and everyone loved the tea. I hadn't done any research on the market size for loose leaf tea. I just thought, you know what, all the feedback's great, and I love it. You know, the cafes love it, and without knowing, like, you know, it's still like loose leaf tea is still very, very small percentage of total hot tea drinkers. People still drink tea in a bag.
Absolutely.
I'm really opposed to bags. I'm like, maybe I can just educate them. Like, we'll do a whole campaign on, like, it was called Get Loose, Step Out of the Bag. And I'm just gonna do all these like educational classes and like videos and talk about the health benefits and environmental benefits of drinking tea out of a bag. There's microplastics in bags, and it's just, you know, it tends to be like a lower quality tea. There's so many reasons. But fast forward, it was just too hard. Like, it was just too hard to build that product line. I personally wasn't even that excited about it. Like, as much as I love drinking it, I'm like, my excitement lies with creating like innovative products that have like a fun mouth feel and can replace alcohol, because I'm so passionate about being sober, and I like cold drinks. Like, I do drink, you know, hot tea and coffee every now and then. Um, but I just wasn't finding that excitement within me and in the marketplace. So that's when I started experimenting with like different recipes at home with cold steep tea, and to really evolve from that. But at the same time, we had this line of loose leaf tea that I was kind of putting on the back burner. I, realize also to build two brands simultaneously is too much for one person because I'm a solo entrepreneur, solo founder. And so how it evolved is now the women in Rwanda who grow the tea and have the herbal blends, they're actually packaging it and selling it locally in Rwanda. And we've rebranded, so they're now called Tizima, which is more meaningful to them there. And when their packaging is ready there, I will work on helping them resell in the US.
Okay. Very
Um, but originally, we were importing the loose leaf, packaging it here. It was all on me to do the marketing, the packaging, the selling, the distribution. The buyers in the stores it's a different category in the store. So it's just like building two different businesses.
And what I've loved about your LinkedIn, and because I've gotten to really learn about how you approach distribution, what has you were talking about working in grocery stores and all of these different pieces. What has the distribution process been like? You sell in a good like in the mountain area of North Carolina. How did it go from one store to the next to the next? What has that distribution process been like?
Yeah, for Sarilla. Um, so I want to go back for a minute just to the loose leaf tea. The benefit of
Yeah,
that type of a product is it's lighter weight. So it is easier to ship, it's easier to transport. But it's a higher price item. So like we can't compete with like $3, $4 box tea on the shelf. So that was also a challenge. I think if I were to do it over again, I would probably really just build out a very robust D2C e-commerce campaign around that product line. Um, but for Sarilla, because it's a heavier product, D2C is going to be a smaller percentage of our total sales. And that's why we need to work through third party distribution and get the product on trucks to get into stores. So I got started here in Asheville, really, like a lot of entrepreneurs, like selling myself out of my car, making my own deliveries, going to some trade shows, doing some crazy, like the first trade show I went to, I took a bunch of wholesale orders and I'm like, okay, now I have to figure out how to get the product to them. I mean, that's how I was operating is that whole thing, like build the plane as you're flying.
absolutely. Yes. I very, very much understand that.
And it's crazy to think back to that. Like, how could I go to a trade show without like a proven system in place? But sometimes it's a chicken or egg thing where in order to get the distribution, you've got to bring them 20, 30 accounts.
Absolutely.
So most of us are out there, like even when we open up a new city, I'm there like opening up 20, 30 new accounts. And then I'll go to my distributor or a new distributor and present those accounts to them and say, we have these commitments. They're currently buying directly from us, or maybe we're shipping to them, or maybe they just made a commitment they will buy once we're on your truck.
Yeah.
Because once we open up that distribution center, like it's on us to make sure we get the volume every week out of their warehouse because they're taking a chance on us. We don't want a pallet of our product just sitting
Totally.
in their warehouse
Totally.
because I mean, we're not paying rent to be in their warehouse. I think our rent is the sales that are coming through. So there needs to be constant movement of product.
Absolutely. You're the first beverage person I have had on the podcast. So this is like me just complete a new learning experience for me. So I'm
Yeah.
like sitting here and soaking this all up and
Yeah.
it's so interesting to hear. Um and what I love is that how you in the very beginning where you had talked about it like going to breweries and like with kegs of tea and things like that like I just would love to hear how you got from that stage to that to the stage you are now and what the process is of making Sarilla and getting it in the cans and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Beverage is not. Beverage is a beast. It really is. I can't tell you how many people have been like, oh my gosh, such a crowded category. Like, why do you choose the hardest category? I'm like, I didn't know it was the hardest category. No one told me that when I got started. And if they had, I still would have done it, because I choose
Totally.
the hardest. It's just what I'm most passionate about. I mean, I've always loved drinking. So one way or another. I mean, and it's such a like, think about how many times we're drinking it all day, like all the liquid combined. And I think that's why it is an exciting category to people because the opportunity is so huge, the market size is so big. But I'm excited actually. We're bringing back the kegs now. It,
Oh,
it went on hiatus for a while, and I'm so excited to start doing the kegs again. We just got an order for a new distributor. They picked up our kegs and they're going to be putting the kegs in offices. So, like co-working spaces, like cafes, they might have kombucha on tap or nitro coffee on tap, and now they'll have Sarilla on tap too. Um,
cool.
so, yeah, I would say the reason we transitioned, though, it was partly just out of necessity in 2020 when, the taps were shutting down. But also just doing like a cost analysis, doing a look at the opportunities. I would say, it's easier to get to sell 4 cases of cans into a business over like trying to secure that tap
Yep.
because that tap, the most common response I hear is like, oh, we just don't have that many taps, or maybe they don't have an NA. Athletic Brewing is a great brand. They're doing an NA beer now. And so I think they've helped pave the way for a lot of us NA products to get into bars and breweries. So people know the demand is there. I saw a stat that 1 out of 3 people who walk into a bar are not going to be drinking alcohol, which is really, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but so, they're looking for something like this. Um, I like having the tap because it's more visible. I see it as more of it's like a sampling event, it's marketing, it's exposure. You see the tap handle, it's new, it's innovative, it's cool, it tastes, it looks like a beer with the foam on top.
Yeah.
When we sell cans into a bar, it might end up under the counter, not on the menu. You have to ask for it to know it's there, kind of thing. So it is
It's
tough.
in the fridges you see behind that you're like bartenders are just
You're
like
like, what
reaching.
is in
Yeah,
there?
what do you have in there? Bartenders are just like reaching down and grabbing something random and saying, "Here you go." Yeah, you never know what's down there.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing we're working on is really partnering with bartenders to come up with a drink where they can use Sarilla as a mixer. And so then we get in there as a mixer. They've got it on hand. And then it starts to become like, okay, that designated driver comes in. They're like, do you have anything non-alc? And they're like, actually, we have Sarilla, like we have these mixed drinks. We could do a mocktail, a cocktail, or just, give you a can.
Oh, cool.
So but when you look at the volume of cans, like packaged product versus draft product, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's more competitive to sell in the cans, but there's coolers everywhere you look, which is the blessing and a curse. I mean, I think again back to like focusing. It's sometimes hard to focus on what type of channel, like what's our channel strategy, what type of account, because I can walk down the street and if I'm just trying to relax, like with my son or something, it's like I gotta turn, like I see a cooler and it's like calling to me. It's like, hello. And I'm like taking mental notes, and once you start paying attention to the coolers, they are everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting to see what is in everyone's cooler too. Like
Yeah.
everybody has their own brand and taste and whatever they like to have in there. But it is so interesting. Um, I love that walking down the street, kid, just don't look at it.
I definitely get cooler envy like when I see the brands that have their own branded coolers. I'm just like, Oh, what I wouldn't give for that.
Have a nice, beautiful Sarilla on the side of it
I
or something.
know.
Looks so good.
An army of people on the ground checking them all every week, making sure like our placement is where it needs to be, the tags are up, the staff knows about it, all those things. It takes a lot of people. We're up against Coke and Pepsi brands, and they own most of the brands now, and they do have, armies of people going into every store every week, if not every day.
You had mentioned, the title of slow entrepreneur, and you've got this beautiful product right now. You've got these awesome flavors. You're in stores. Is there a growth mindset in terms of like, hey, 2024, here's what we want to do? Maybe we have some new flavors. Is that cooking in the back of your mind? Like what is cooking in Sarah's mind right now in terms
Yeah.
of
What's on my mind most of the time is revenue.
this?
So, my goal is to hit $1 million in sales in 2024. So I mean that's going to be a lot of growth, but I'm quite sure we can do it with some new partnerships coming up, and we are getting ready to launch with Vistar, which is a division of Performance Food Group in January. So that'll bring us into hospitality. So they service hotels, athletic stadiums, concert venues, all those places where people are hanging out, socializing. You know,
Yes.
I'm so excited to support that launch because that's like, I think that's going to be our bread and butter channel. Whereas the grocery store, it's so busy, so crowded. It's even becoming like overwhelming. There's this thing now called like shopper paralysis, where, I had it the other day standing in front of I guess it's called the dairy case, just
Yes.
looking for like a non-dairy creamer. And I don't want the gums. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want this. I don't want that. Like, and there was another woman doing the same thing. And we just were like, what are you going to get? And she's like, I think I'm going to get nothing. And I was like, me too. And we both just like walked away. Like our wallets were out and we walked away. So I think, we're going to continue building in grocery, but more building where we already are. So like supporting our retail partners that are, have already invested in us. We're going to keep investing in them. We're going to do demos. We have brand ambassadors working with some influencers, um, and just to get that trial up and velocity in stores. But I'm seeing grocery as more of an access point for people who are on a mission. They know Cirilla's in there and they're going in to get it. Whereas like this other channel is more of a discovery channel. They're like traveling, hanging out, looking for a better for you healthy option. So that's going to be big this year. We also just did our first flavor collab with an organization, and I can't announce it until January, but it's a new flavor I created just for them, and it's also a cause that we're excited to support. So we'll be donating a percentage of sales to them,
Very cool. Very
and
cool.
that'll be available in bars, breweries, and distilleries around the country, starting in January.
Very cool. Well, I can't wait to see it. I will be on Instagram paying very close attention to that. So I'm very excited to see what that partnership looks like. Um, I know you've shared your story and your connection to Rwanda everywhere, in several different places. Your TED Talk, which is fantastic and very captivating. I love anytime we get to hit on community and the importance of community. Like I just loved those conversations. But I just want to hit on with you the importance of all these different connection points with Rwanda, with the community that you're in, with the people that you're selling to. Like, can you put into words just what that means from a brand perspective, but also for you as an activist?
Yeah, so right now I'm based in Asheville. I would say ideally, I'd be in Rwanda probably 2, 3 times a year. It's really, I love Asheville. It's a great home base. I would say Rwanda is what, like, it breathes life into me. Like, I just get so much from being there. I feel like, we were talking about the patience and the like busy timelines before. It's a place where I go to like reset, um, reinvigorate, re-inspire, and just like get grounded again on what this is all about. Because when I'm just grinding it out in the US, it's like, okay, sales, product, marketing, promotions, da da da, like so much administration, which has to happen. Um, but does the world really just need another product? I don't think they do. Like, I think we have too many products as it is, which I have an inner battle around sometimes. I'm like, I can't believe, I'm so committed to like sustainability and regenerative farming and like ethical trade, and now I've joined some systems that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think we have to join to change. And so
Love that.
I want to get into the middle in order to create change in a very peaceful way, and not to criticize like other companies for the way they're doing it, because they're up against their own set of challenges, but to show, it's attraction rather than promotion. So it's showing this is a way you could do it. Like, this is what it means for us to be transparent, ethical, and I'm not even going to use the word sustainable because I don't think you
It's used.
can when you're in a package and you're using trucks to truck your stuff, flights. Um, but on the producer side, we're doing as much as we can to build community around regenerative farming techniques and to really help educate like why it's better for the planet, why it's better for our health, and make it easy for them to build upon. So I'm looking at how can we access grants for our producer partners or pay for their fees to get that certification, because that's really important to us. And so I'm getting very involved, like speaking around these topics, how to build community around regenerative, what does it mean? Um, and also starting to do like even some testing on our own products to show here's why it's better and different.
Yeah,
We can do side by sides.
absolutely.
And, but yeah, I think, community is always it's always been like very important to me. I mean, ever since getting sober, I think the worst feeling is to feel alone. The worst feeling is to be in a crowd of people and feel alone. And I still have that sometimes, but it's not like it was. I mean, it was just such a lonely feeling, in that kind of alcoholic state in my early 20s, and just like not feeling connected, And so to me, like community is about first connecting with ourselves, connecting with our purpose, and then we just become easier to like engage with other people. But if we're hiding something, or if we have some kind of like secret behavior that we're ashamed about it, or an addiction, it does separate us from others. It holds other people at a distance, and that's a very lonely feeling.
Absolutely. And I loved the point you make on sustainability. I think everybody likes to put sustain like they're sustainable. Every company likes to say that they are, but to your point, Amazon's got planes, trucks everywhere. It's amazing. Every company has it. So I love your point that just not even using it because it just doesn't make sense. You're being honest with everybody as well. Like it's just it doesn't fit. Why put sustainable out there when everybody else is using it and not
It's
being?
greenwashing. It's an overuse of a term that's really important. It's a really important mission. It's got some really like critical, like defining aspects that are just being abused, and if you use plastic tape or, boxes or any kind of gasoline to get, I mean, and in my opinion, planting trees to counterbalance, the whole like net zero or carbon neutral is another slippery slope. Those terms are being thrown around right now. Um, so for me, I'm most passionate about the farmer side and what can we do to bring health back to our soil first.
Okay.
And then we've got to tackle other things. We've got to look at the plastic wrap that's going on the pallets. We've got to look at what's happening in the warehouse, what's happening with our trucks, but like we don't own them. So this is another issue. Um, but we don't own the entire supply chain and logistics there. So we have to pick our battles and kind of make a difference where we can. Otherwise, like nothing will happen.
Pick one and
Pick
try to
one,
pick one, try
chip away.
try to get chip away out of it, and then once you get somewhere where there is change happening, pick another.
Yeah. And if anyone out there, I mean, I'm excited about some of these innovations around packaging with using like hemp and
Yeah.
alternatives to plastic, like I think even compostable is kind of confusing because it's like, okay, we'll use compostable cups at our demos, but you have to have the type of compost at the store, like to even have it compost. So if anyone has like a I'm going to say a sustain, like an eco-friendly, like tape, um, anything, we can use instead of plastic. Even when it comes to our pack out with the 12 the 12 cans, right now we're just using a recycled type of box, but it's not ideal because you can't see the cans through it. So we couldn't do like a stack in the store. You're not going to put like a cardboard box, like, so you could do a tray like some companies, but that tray is usually wrapped in plastic. So what can we do instead?
As you're explaining that, I'm like visually, I'm in a store and I'm like seeing what you're talking about. So I completely understand
Yeah.
where you're going there with
It's
that.
called a case stack, right?
Yeah.
So they'll just rip open the plastic, have it on display, or you can send in like a shelf that you own. Maybe it's called an in and out. That thing is going to be wrapped with plastic. I mean, if you go to the back of a grocery store, it's like,
Yes.
the way everything comes in wrapped in plastic.
The doors that we see at the back of the grocery store where we're like, where does this lead to?
It's so fun back there.
Sarah, I can't thank you enough for letting me dip my toe in your industry and letting me get to learn more about Sarilla today. I so appreciate it, and I'm a huge follower of yours. Like I said, just of the work that you do as an entrepreneur with Sarilla, but as an activist as well. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time and joining me today.
Thank you. And thank you for supporting our retail partners in Lake Lore. I think
Yes.
that's where you first discovered it. I didn't dive into all the flavors, but yeah, definitely go to our website, drinksarilla.com, check out the 6 flavors, and we've got that 7th one coming out in January.
So very excited, and all of Cirilla's website's gonna be down below as well as all of their social media. So please go give them a follow and stay tuned for more to come. But Sarah, just thank you again for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Yes, yes, and as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.
Cheers.